we were gonna try laughing when we joined the mainstream, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah. do you know? Not to interrupt the question, but do you know the story behind canned laughter? Are you familiar with it?
no.
Can I swear here?
Probably on the backstage you can, at least.
Okay, all right, then it's freaking insane, man. The story for canned laughter, it was like one machine that like this very small mom and pop company made, and only they could service it, and they would bring it into the studios, and you had to like pay high amounts of money to use it and stuff. And I remember at one point, apparently it broke down, and like all these shows had to like wait to come out, and there's this big delay because the canned laughter machine broke down. It was like this big patented thing when it started, before everybody started, just before wave files were invented. But anyway,
Before real files.
there was like a big canned laughter machine. It was like really crazy in Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
Just reminds me of that A Million Ways to Die in the West, that nobody laughed in a photograph. So nobody else like thought about laughing and just recording.
Yeah.
But you couldn't laugh.
We have a standard for the laugh.
But you couldn't laugh because the camera was just too slow for that. So just people were just staring into the camera.
For the laughter?
Yeah, because if you laughed all the time for 1 minute, it's your muscles cannot.
Oh yeah, you became blurry. And they believed in ghosts also.
Yeah.
Just like Adam Devine. So they thought it was a ghost.
Yeah. What percentage of people believe in ghosts? I did a poll like 10 years ago. I did a big Facebook poll where I had like 1,000 people just answer random personal questions, and I think it was about like down the middle, and less men believed in ghosts than women. Like women were like 60% likely and men were like 40% likely or something, but it was pretty much down the middle of like, do people believe in ghosts?
Huh.
But do you have some great ghost stories?
Do you? Do I have great ghost stories?
He's got a whole Patreon for it. The ghosts at Ben's place. The Patreon.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone to like abandoned. I think like I have creepy stories, but they're not really ghosts. Like I have a lot of creepy stories, but I guess it's
anything
it's
can be a creepy story.
Yeah, like I think like I've gone to like abandoned mental asylums and stuff like that, and like in the tunnels. But like
For fun?
Just sort of like taking pictures and rooting around and discovering, what. And there's tunnels that linked the buildings in this massive asylum. It's in like the middle of nowhere in Illinois.
Oh. Yeah,
and
I have. Talked. Sorry.
Oh no! I was very like. I would say that the creepiest thing that happened there was I found a dead animal, it was like a dead like possum or something in the tunnel, but it was a very, very shallow tunnel. And luckily, I was like smart enough to realize that I just knew that if you have a dead animal in an area like that without fresh air coming in, that the bacteria consuming the animal is using up all the oxygen and you could actually suffocate. And I was like, oh, I smell death, I gotta run. But yeah, that's probably
cool.
I don't know.
First I gotta taste it.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna run.
Sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I do.
I have that. So
really?
Really creepy. Yeah.
Do you get the shadow people?
I get the shadow people on my chest, choking me.
Yeah, they're awesome, aren't they?
And the first time I heard of it was when it happened to me, and I told my father. My father has the same thing. It's so scary. It's the scariest thing there is.
Yeah,
it's just so real.
Yeah,
you got some weird shit in common.
Yeah. No, the shadow people's like a thing, man. It's very common in sleep paralysis. Yeah. It's very common with like DMT, with like high level hallucinogens. Yeah, and I've had it with sleep deprivation too. Okay. Like I remember when shooting a video in the Badlands, I had kind of, which is up in like South Dakota, I had to leave a lot of the crew to like shoot some other shot, and I had stayed up a couple days hiking out in this like very arid field or whatever. But yeah, I remember like the sun was coming up and I just saw like shadow people in the distance following me, and I was like, it was because of sleep deprivation, but I was like so freaked out. I was just like, oh my god, they're real. Yeah.
It's also a Minecraft biome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it is. That's right.
I had different ones, and the least worst one was when mouse were eating me alive. That was the least worst one. And normally it was when I slept during the day. So I didn't sleep enough, and during the day, and then it happened. But like I think like 6 times in a lifetime, so it didn't happen that much. There are people that have that every night.
Yeah, it's a little it's more frequent. I mean, it's like maybe every 2 weeks now for me it happens. Yeah. But
routine and stress, it happens more for me.
I told I described it to my mom like 6 months ago or something. Mm-hmm. Recently, I was like describing it to my mom. And she, I got this text from her like later in the day, and she, you know, it's about something else. It was like, "Hey Ben, I stuffed the box. I love you, and I hope you never dream again." Just like, like I forgot the context of it, and I was like, "What a terrible thing to say to your son." Yeah. I hope you never dream again. Yeah. Your dreams are crap.
Yeah, that's really dark.
Strange.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I've seen. This isn't a shadow person thing. It's not even all that creepy, but I've talked to other artists who have witnessed this. Performing live in front of a big audience, there's this phenomenon that happens to some people where you just feel like you're being watched, like there's somebody behind you, like that there's just somebody watching everything that you do right behind you. And this happens so much, even, you know, obviously I'm not playing shows this year, but is like my last couple shows that I played. I remember just being like, you know, just like, I feel like there's somebody behind me, and it, you know, it's not a creepy thing. I'm not like worried that they're going to kill me, but it's more like, I'm just like, why is there somebody behind me when I'm on stage? Like, you know, what are they doing? Like, you know, making explicit symbols behind me or something like that. Like, what's their purpose?
Speaking of going away a tiny bit from the darkness, but I know that you made a video very early in the whole COVID situation with transitioning to how much am I going to lose from not being able to play live? Like, how's that follow-up now? Like, almost a year into it.
This year, in the last year, it's just been such a dramatic change in what I do for a living. Like, it's, you know, it was very, I was a musician, and then I was a musician with a YouTube channel that I updated sometimes. And, like, when I had time to do it. And now, you know, I'm obviously putting a lot more time into YouTube. I've gotten, there are things that I've like signed non-disclosures on, so I can't really say that much, but like I've gotten hired on science. I've gotten hired as like a researcher for some things. I've built like relationships with companies. Yeah. So like it's stemmed outside of music too, even into research and science and stuff, which I'm so excited about, and I'm flattered to death by that opportunity. And now it's sort of, you know, little ideas that I've had for years are now kind of coming to fruition, and I'm starting to move forward with finding out, I guess, finding where I want to be and like where I fit into this whole YouTube presenter / personality thing, because I didn't, not until this last year did I feel like I fit anywhere. I felt like everything was already covered. Like Loop Pop is like the manual for the synths. Like he tells you everything you need to know about every synth. And like, you know, Andrew Wang is like the, you know, he'll give you like the ideas to like inspire someone or, you know, things like that. And like, you've got like the edgier, you and, Look Mum No Computer have like sort of the edgier punk rock side of like doing, you know, and it was like, I was just kind of like, where do I fit? Like, like the only thing that I had before, you know, this last year, the only thing that I really thought that I had that was unique was like, well, I have like experience making a living as a musician. Like, because everybody else was doing it backwards. Like I talked to Adam Neely, and he was like trying to get his band to go on tour after having, you know, 1 million YouTube subscribers. And it was like, and I'm kind of back where I'm like trying to get subscribers when I'm, you know, sick of touring and, you know, things like that.
I guess you also have the science as well.
Yeah, the science thing that took off pretty well. I mean, it's still not that, it doesn't. It's funny because if I make a video bitching about Behringer, it does really well. But if I make a video, Yeah, the science of bitching about Behringer. If I make a video bitching about Behringer or Spotify, it does really well. If I make a video literally levitating things with audio, it gets like 3,000 views. It's just like, come on.
But it could be Behringer things. You could levitate Behringer things.
Yeah, just levitate Uli.
Look at how light this gear is. Shit inside.
Yeah. Right.
Like, can I just take a wild guess so we have it on the record that I'm guessing, and you show no face like giving away anything since you've signed a non-disclosure thingy? But I think it's going to be something AI music science. And you say nothing? You say nothing? That's just my guess. You can guess in chat as well. Someone is bound to be correct about something. Because I know nothing. I don't sign NDAs.
Yeah.
So just, I just refuse to.
You just read it, Martin, Simon. I remember that explaining NDAs to you 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so some of it is a little AI. I mean, I can say that like some of it has to do with neurology, which is like cool. Interesting. And then
that's not AI.
Some other thing has to do with drug delivery. Which is like, which acoustics can help with, believe it or not.
Oh,
okay.
Wow, that's
Word?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I guess, like, without diving in too much, like, if you have kidney stones, for example, they use sound waves to break them up to treat it, so you can pass them without pain. Yeah. So, like, you could also use sound waves more directionally to deliver drugs to specific parts of the body and things like that. And so, I'm not doing this. I don't have like a room where I do this to people. It's like obviously in an early form of research of trying to figure things out like that. And so,
I'm going to assume that you're trying really hard to get kidney stones with really bad habits or something.
Yeah. just for
it is a lot of experimenting.
Sign here, and we will get you kidney stones.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I did sign up for the vaccine trials. I didn't actually end up getting them, but I ended up getting. I have the first dose. Yeah, I have the first dose of the vaccine, but it wasn't part of the trial. It was just. But Yeah, I'm also about to get it since I work in like healthcare. We're getting it very early. Oh, nice.
As well, we're here.
Nice.
But I mean, so you're doing mainly just to tie it back to from before. Now you're a YouTuber making music instead of a musician making YouTube. Then I guess.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, and it's hard. I feel like I'm taking a bit of I'm being separated from music a little bit too much at times. Like my schedule's just getting way too hectic. And most of the music I've been writing lately, it's been, and I don't know if this is because I'm just sent so many synths and so much pro audio gear that like it, that you kind of just get over it and you're not as fast, or maybe you're just like doing it on the channel and so you don't want to do it in your own creative life. And so like all I've been writing is like jazz piano for the last year. Like that's everything, right? And I have a piano album out, so it's not that weird for me to like keep doing that. But yeah, it's funny because you would think that I would just have every synth in my house around me, but I actually have like a residency here where people are using all of the gear that I've amassed. And
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, that's actually happening right now upstairs, and it's
wow.
It's pretty awesome too.
We should interview those people about how your location is.
How do you find people that you like and that you want to have at your home?
I had a survey that had a couple hundred applicants. So it wasn't even really an applicant. It was just like a survey, like, do you have the means to get here? Do you, just a bunch of questions that are just, not even all that personal, but just sort of,
Are you a cat or a dog lover?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Do you have kidney stones?
Yeah. Can I break up your kidney stones?
You have a brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then obviously after that, as I got like down to a short list, like with these guests, there's a lot of COVID precautions in the beginning, and then making sure, obviously, like I had to get insurance and things like that to make sure that I'm not like, God forbid that like somebody has an accident or something like that. So it is a little, it has to be formal to some degree, but luckily I have like, a guest bedroom and bathroom and things like that. And so it's not like too, it's not too weird or it's not too imposing or anything like that on me. And it's just really cool to like go upstairs and like grab, you know, a piece of food or something and like hear some like acid house happening in like the other in the room, and it's like, it's awesome. It's nice.
That's also cool. Nice if you get so much gear sent to you, like the guests can learn the gear and then they can teach you.
But before we asked a question, what questions do you want to ask Benn Jordan? And one of the questions was, if you could make any instrument that doesn't exist yet, what would it be?
Man, any instrument that doesn't exist.
Yeah, something you always wanted or you missed.
I think like for a long time I've tried to figure out what the how I could have something that would act as like an ebow for every single guitar string.
Yeah.
Like I'd really like that. And that's just hard. Like I've played with sustainer guitars and stuff like that. And I actually have a couple different ebows that I've like stupidly tried to tape together to get to work, but it's just not, it can't be like expressive. And I don't know. This is like kind of a video. This is not the most like imaginative response, but yeah, being able to
like piano ebow. Something like that.
I've done that. Yeah, I mean, not obviously with like one string at a time, but I've definitely done prepared piano with ebows and stuff like that, where I've like put them on. But yeah, being able to just have a guitar and being able to like control each string and put an attack on it, essentially, that would be really nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of blocking for the other strings, but yeah, if you play a lot of funk, you're used to that.
Yeah.
We're actually getting questions in the backstage as well. We got a question now, like what we think about buying subscribers from hackers.
How can you,
like what we know about it and what we think about it? I don't know much about it, but I think it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've busted people doing it, not publicly, but I feel like I've seen it before where I've been like, this person's metrics don't add up to their viewers. Like it's pretty, I think that like for anybody who's actually hiring an influencer, like any company that's hiring an influencer, like they're not being fooled by it anymore. Like,
probably not.
Yeah. And there are even pages that like show your like health of your engagement and stuff like that. And so it's pretty easy to find. Yeah. Like it's pretty easy to find out like if somebody has, bad or good engagement. And I don't think it's so much of like trying to bust them buying followers. Say what? Well, I don't think it's so, I don't think it's so much trying to like bust them. I don't think it's so much trying to bust them, getting fake viewers or something like that. I think it's more, or followers. I think it's more just how valuable each video is. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do, or I mean, has to do with, but it's not necessarily tied exclusively to how many subscribers the channel has. Right. So my thoughts on it for anybody who wants to start a YouTube channel and just invest their life savings into 1 million subscribers or Facebook page or whatever it is. My thoughts on it is that it's actually probably pretty bad if you have all these extra subscribers that aren't watching all of your videos and actually putting in, the 8 minutes for the 16-minute video or, whatever the average is for your channel. I would imagine that then the algorithm might be like, oh, this is a crap video, and then not recommend it to other viewers. It may actually blow up in your face pretty badly, like because you just have these ghosts that like aren't actually engaging in anything.
Yeah, it's just a number.
Yeah, right.
But I would say if you had the money to do that, first of all, give that money to charity. But second of all, do it. And then fail at it and start a new channel from scratch and feel shame that you did it.
Yeah,
you rich person.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you wanted to make a YouTube channel and you had the extra money to like buy a ton of subscribers, like why wouldn't you just hire an editor or something?
But here's a question: like, so you buy subscribers, but you can buy views, right?
Yeah.
So does those views count back into ad revenue? So it's like a self-serving.
Yeah, but you pay for them, so.
Yeah, but do you go zero?
It's tricky. I mean, Google knows Google knows what's real and what's fake views. Like they could definitely
recognize. That's also a really scary statement.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like if a bunch of views are all like the same amount around the same amount of time, and they're all coming from like the same IP range from like a click farm in India or something, they're like, this person's abusing the ad system.
And we're going to demonetize them, and they can change.
Probably, Are they not using like a VPN?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that like the harder it is to catch them, then like the more it costs, and like the worse.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also true.
So it's diminished returns.
But I guess in the future we will have situations, not necessarily lawsuits or anything, but like misjudged situations. Like YouTube assessed that this was bought views or bought subscribers, but in fact it's not.
Yeah. In the Netherlands, we had our first lawsuit about this question. So an Instagrammer with, I think, around 500,000 followers got a lawsuit because he got a lot of money from other companies that hired him because he had a lot of followers.
Right.
But he bought that followers. And so that's what the lawsuit was about, and so they brought it back to
shame on everyone involved.
Did he lose? Did he win or lose that lawsuit?
He lose on false advertisement.
Really? See, now I would imagine that if you are gonna actually put money into that type of engagement and that type of advertisement, I would imagine that it should be part of your responsibility as a company. I would imagine. I mean, I'm not taking a side either. I don't have a dog in this fight, but I would imagine that it would be your responsibility to actually look at the engagement of the posts that already exist. To be like, this person has 500,000 followers, but only 25 comments per thing that this person's posting. That doesn't add up, right? Like in comparison to somebody.
But if you make a new synthesizer and you do a poll and you pay for that poll, everyone puts a 9 on that, and that's not true. You get a lawsuit for that. So I don't think it's that.
I just want to imagine this company having a whole department sitting there and being, this makes no sense.
Yeah,
this makes no sense.
We spent so much money. You know what? A really interesting, and it's going to be. I don't want to name any names, but and this is sort of outside of YouTube. But a couple of years ago, there's a festival that was far away up north, and I didn't want to play it. It was a pain in the butt to get there. It was in kind of far away in the middle of nowhere. It was full of music acts and type of like thing that I don't want to play. It was a very expensive festival. It's not like a huge one like Coachella, but it still costs like $300 for the weekend. And it was just like, so therefore like any of my fans that lived anywhere nearby, it would be not really worth it for them to pay that just to see me. And it had to be like a bigger thing. And I just didn't want to play it. And as a result, the promoter of the festival kept upping the amount of money that I got paid and being like, well, we'll pay him this much. And finally it got to that point where I was like, well, okay, I'm a prostitute, so I'll drive up there. I'll do what I don't want to do for money. And so I played it, but I noticed that on the flyer, I was on like the third row down. Like it had like the biggest act was on the top row, and then had a bunch on like the second, and then, some on third. And then there I was like in tiny print, and this is like for the web flyers and for the handout flyers and everything else. And I don't really care. Like it doesn't affect my life in any way. In fact, like if it's a show where I don't want people spending a ton of money to see me play, then it's actually beneficial for me to be buried on the flyer somewhere. But I found out when I got there that I was the highest paid artist at the festival. And that I looked at some of the metrics, and I looked at like the Spotify views and stuff. And I was also the most listened to artist at the festival, like the person who actually was legitimately, the person who would have the biggest draw at the festival. And so I was like very confused by this, because I was like, why would they do this? Were they selling spots in the flyer? Like, what is the point of this? Because there's people ahead of me where it was like their first show, and so I talked to the promoter about it, because I was like, this is just confusing. Like, why are you doing this? And it was Facebook likes. It was just Facebook likes. I had a mere 27,000 Facebook likes, and this guy who had never played a show before had bought 100,000, and so he ended up on the second tier, and then the person on the first tier, and that's how they did the whole thing. And it was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you've invested so much money into this massive festival, and then your promotion is based on that metric. Facebook likes.
Whatever happened to going alphabetically?
Yeah,
like back in the day.
Like even Last FM.
That should be pretty high.
Like it was just like Facebook likes. Like that's like,
that's really weird.
DJ 101 buy Facebook likes, then buy a turntable. Yeah. So.
On the way to the show.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't think it probably doesn't work, but because this was a few years back, right?
Yeah. I mean, it got him higher on the flyer, but it didn't get him paid anymore, right? It's just
good point.
Like, it was just sort of, it was weird. And the way that I look at it is like, I've been doing it so long where it's just like, you know what, if I'm low on the flyer, then if something happens, if I can't make it to the show, then I don't feel as bad, which, it's not like I cancel shows all the time, but it's not as high intensity.
But that's also kind of a weird assessment from you. That's how how much you care about the gig is where you ended up.
Well, if there's this big festival and it says the flash bulb and it has my face on it, and then I pop a tire on the way there and I can't show up, I feel terrible. But if I'm like this tiny little blip down at the bottom, it's like, who cares? Yeah. It's like, I don't have that many Facebook likes. Maybe I'll go to Red Lobster instead.
Please like my Facebook post so I can change the tire here.
Yeah.
But since you're saying you've been playing for a really long time, or not really, really long time, but for a long time, you've been going through all of these. Like since before social media, and how now social media is affecting that entire landscape. Now I guess the pandemic is sort of canceling the entire live.
The strange thing is that a lot of musicians only make money from their shows. And even that is gone. So it's a really weird time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I want to believe that there's going to be a Coronaissance. There's going to be like, I do want to believe that like here's something that like my booking agent, I'm still friends with my booking agent, even though he's not my booking agent anymore, because he had to like go down to a skeleton crew of artists that he represents, because he's obviously suffering badly because nobody is booking shows anywhere. But talking to him, it was just kind of like, the system's really bad already. Like before the pandemic, like the live, especially in America, like it was just a terrible system with like the ticket companies making so much money and the venues making the amount of monies that venues were making, the amount of certain things were like a lot of the bigger venues who play. Like once I sort of graduated to like moderate or bigger size venues, like I'll bring a merch person on tour. I'll hire a merch person and I'll have like a crew with me or staff with me. And then the venue wants a cut of merch sales from like my merch that my merch person that I'm hiring selling, and the venue wants a cut of it. Like things like that, where it's just like the system's really broken, and maybe it'll get built up a little bit wiser. Like shows should be crowdfunded. That's what it should. Like there's no reason for Ticketmaster or for independent promoters, or like it doesn't make any sense for that to exist, because venues, they always have to take such a risk. When they, if a venue books me and 25 people show up and they're paying me this much money already, then they lose money on it. Or even if they're paying me by the door, then they're paying for security and staff and all these things, and it's a big waste of money for them. Like, there's no reason why shows shouldn't be crowdfunded. Like, people should buy tickets in advance and then go see the show, and the venue shouldn't have to take the risk, and the artist shouldn't have to take the risk.
Yeah.
But there's just too many middlemen pocketing in between the artist and the person seeing the artist. And so it's just this like big crappy system that hopefully, now that there's a squeeze, like we've definitely, now that the venues and the ticket companies and the artists have been squozed by the pandemic,
yes, exactly.
You might, hopefully that the fat that gets cut from that are the predatory middlemen. But it also might mean that artists just get paid less and their careers are destroyed. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out once it starts rebuilding.
I just really like the word squoze.
Squoze, yeah. I've said it a few times with the whole GameStop thing happening.
Are you invested in the GameStop?
No, not at all. No, I'm like,
imagine you being that though.
I'm like the grumpy dad voice of reason in the whole thing. I'm just like,
it's all a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's like, do you honestly think you're gonna best these hedge funds that have these algorithms that have their own fiber lines running across the country so they could invest in 5 milliseconds faster than the next one? It's like there's no way you could win.
Yeah, it's always when people are talking about
not with that attitude.
Too late to invest.
Yeah.
Same with the Bitcoin bubble. Everyone that was investing, when everyone's talking about it, it was too late. They lose their money.
That, it's funny. Speaking of shorts and Bitcoin, I shorted Bitcoin years back in the first big bubble. And it was because I went to the dog park and an old woman was talking about Bitcoin. And then that same day, my uncle called me and was like, "Hey, Ben, so I bought Bitcoin." And I was like, these are people who don't even understand the beginning of the concept of cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. And it's like, so now would be the time to borrow some and sell it back after it crashes. Yeah, or trade it in after it does. So yeah, I think that people should definitely be financially responsible. And my biggest thing, I tell every musician to buy a house. I'm like, if you have any extra money, save up for a down payment on a house and buy a house, because even if it's not where you want to live, even if it's not your dream house, get some land.
But are most musicians bad businessmen? Is it?
I think most people are. No, I mean, I think there is no, at least in America, there is no class that teaches you fiscal responsibility, or there's no class that teaches you even simple things if you are lending money in some way, whether it be through a bank or whether it be in some, if you're in a position where you're lending money, then you're in a good position in life. And if you're in a position where you're borrowing money, then you're in a bad position. Simple things like that. But a lot of people, they just graduate from high school and they get a credit card, or they get a student loan for $150,000 and just sign the paper. And then 10 years later, they're like, "Oh, we need to change the laws." And it's like, well, we should also change the education.
But negotiation is really something you need to practice with age. Do you have some great tricks for that, for negotiation, for your price of your spot? Or
can you speak from experience, things you've done that you don't want to have done?
Or maybe some red flags where you say, leave that place.
Oh, what do you mean, negotiating?
If you're going to play on a festival, for example, and there is a prize, it's always, nobody talks about that, and you don't have to mention a prize, but more what are the tricks to find out that prize that they
how much you're worth. Festivals are usually pretty transparent about their budget. Shows are pretty transparent about their budget. It's pretty easy to figure out, and it's also pretty easy to look at the metrics of for example, if last time I played a show in LA, I don't remember how much I got paid, but it was my last show. It was a little over a year ago. It was actually right around NAMM. The last show I played in LA, for example, I talked to the venue, and my booking agent at the time just said, "Okay, so he played in LA 2 years ago at this venue, and this is the attendance for that show, and this is the ticket price for that show, and how much do you want to offer him?" And and he was talking to 6 different venues in LA at the time, and and so that way it created a little bit of competition. And it was weird because the venue that that bid and paid the most and gave us the best deal was actually it was a stage, and it was a cool venue, but it was actually a Spanish restaurant / venue that was they paid more than the bigger venue, and we were like, okay, that sounds cool, so we did that. But obviously, when you're starting out, you don't have that kind of bargaining power, I guess. So yeah, I think the bigger issue, the one where things get a lot more abstract and the money gets a lot higher, is music licensing. Like if I don't know, if Pepsi is like, yo, we want to use your music and we want to use a flashbulb song in an ad, that's when it gets tricky, because it's like that could be 10,000 or 1,000 or 80,000. You don't really know, and you're negotiating for two different sides of the license to the sync and master, and so it's like, I usually just start high, really, and I just say like, this is what I want, and
but it's a really tricky one because it all comes with experience. Like it's a very well-known fact that artists usually sign the first record deal and it's a shitty record deal. It's always pretty much been that way. Because you just want to sign something, I guess.
Yeah, you just want like that validation.
Happy to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's things. It's a weird analogy for me to put this in, but like I've done like I've always been really into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like that's always been something I've been into, and I've been doing it since I was 19, and now I'm 40. Right?
We were supposed to fight, right?
It's a defense part.
Yeah, we were supposed to fight. People have been talking about us fighting.
Fighting
for
Oh,
like with love, of course, but physically.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
I think people just want to see me get my ass kicked. I think that's the USP, pretty much.
I mean, I'm pretty old. Yeah. I mean, I still got good head movement, but
I'm a pacifist, so
so we would just like be
hug, I guess.
Yeah, which is kind of like jiu-jitsu. So I guess it's kind of similar, just hugging on the ground. But no, it's sort of similar to that, where like by the time you get into the upper belts, because belts in jiu-jitsu are really hard to get. It's not like karate where you kind of get one after a couple months and stuff. Belts in jiu-jitsu take like years for the next level. And after purple, I just stopped like wearing the gi, and I started getting into wrestling and judo and different things. And it just, because the belts just seemed like worrying about the belt seemed like it wasn't actually making me any better. It seemed like that was actually, and I feel like there's a lot of those things in the music industry too. Like so many people, I get spam email all the time from, I mean, it's not like bot spam, but it's real people emailing me all the time, asking me to hire them to get me my verified Instagram star or whatever, that like little purple or blue, I don't even know what it looks like, but you know what I'm talking about, like the verified Instagram, because I don't have one.
Isn't it a check mark?
Yeah, and I don't have one, and it's like I applied for one once just because somebody had a fake account and they didn't give me one, and then I said, okay, well, I can't, I don't care anymore, and that's it. And there's a whole industry of like trying to get artists their Instagram verified star, and it's like that means nothing to anybody. And if it did mean anything to anybody, if somebody was like, I'm not respecting this guy, he's not verified, then it's probably not good to work with that person, and that person's probably a bad route for your life.
Why don't they go like in harder on it? Like we noticed here that you don't have a verified. Are you a loser? Are you a nobody? Hire us, and we will fix it for you.
yeah. It's so weird, and the amount of money they wanted was like $5,000 or something. Like it's actually really expensive. Yeah, and
have anyone offered to buy your YouTube channel?
No, I've been. I was sort of in brief talks about possibly merging my YouTube channel, but nobody offered to like buy it. And I mean, it's not going to happen, so I can say it now, but like I was in sort of a brief like brainstorm conversation about merging my YouTube channel with Adler Planetarium, because they just are not raising good funds, because it's a massive planetarium in Chicago. They do a lot of really important research. Like they do more research than they do the museum side of things. And they really needed a presenter, and I've worked with them forever. And their YouTube has just not been taking off. And that's basically all they are. Now they're just YouTube because of the pandemic and because they've closed, and any science organization is not going to be open during the pandemic. And so, and so there was like some talks about that of like how, but it never went through. And some of the people that work there ended up going to NASA. So it's all different now. But how about you? Have you gotten your channel offered?
Yeah, I wanted to compare. So we could start like I got offered this much and I got offered this much, and then we end up like on like $1 billion, and then we start something really cool based on that money.
Hey, you can buy my channel.
Yeah,
$10.
I was wondering, like, how much would I want for that? Like, what salary would I want to be to move my channel to a different, organization or something?
Yeah, but $1 million, and I would probably sell just because I know that I could just start something else, and then with $1 million, I could do a lot of good things for the world.
You can just buy a viewers for $1 million.
Yeah,
I can just buy new subscribers. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that one I wasn't totally against, because I would like my channel to eventually go to a science place. Like I would like my channel to
would be really cool.
Be a creative science, or I guess a sort of a artsy science, science channel. And that would be one of the issues I have with that is I don't have a formal education in science. I don't have a PhD in,
but if you can become like successful enough or big enough, then those will be part of your team, I guess.
So right. And that is actually something that I do now. Like that is something that like now I'm kind of reaching into those realms when I do videos that are based on science or something, to make sure that what I'm saying is not nonsense, to make sure that what I'm saying is not just like my false understanding of what's actually happening.
You make a lot of disclaimers.
I like nonsense.
Yeah, I do make a lot of disclaimers. I remind people all the time that I'm not, if I ever cover something like that, I always remind people that, like, this is subjective, this is objective, and they're gonna disagree.
There is no middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah, like this is how I feel, and this is the data I have, and like you should be focused on the data I have, and how I feel is just like my opinion. But yeah,
they don't mix.
Yeah.
At all. The earth is flat, but I cannot prove it.
Yeah.
I just feel that it's flat.
I feel that it's flat.
Yeah, it feels flat to me, man.
Science is studying the other ones. So we have a lot of questions rolling in here sporadically, but I don't feel like interrupting. But
go for it. Yeah.
We got one question from Kurdik Dunke. Would you recommend to release own material on YouTube? Like copyright lost by releasing on that platform? I don't know. I have no idea. I release everything I do on YouTube, basically.
Hope
not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. So, okay, there's like releasing music as library music on YouTube, which I know.
That's really hard.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah, some artists have gotten some upfront payment for that. I'm not there because, and I mean, this is just a thing. Like, I've written so much music for ads. I've had so much music licensed that I actually my catalog, essentially, it's been audited before, like in terms of like a publisher buying my catalog for that or something. And so like I've just been doing it for so long that my catalog is actually my net worth. Like it's the most of, and so it's kind of like, the problem is I don't care if somebody uses my music in their video creatively. I don't care if somebody is in anything like that. Like TuneCore cares, but I don't. And I do everything I can to help people use my music and, get past nights or things. But I do care if it's used in an advertising campaign, because I think the issue with that is that my likeness gets attached to it. Like if there's a recognizable song of mine that is one of my more recognizable songs and it gets used for, a Donald Trump political ad or something like that, like then my likeness is associated. And that's why licenses are actually worth a lot more money than being paid to compose for something, even though you're not really doing any work when you're licensing something, but it's because you are associating your likeness with a brand or something like that. And that
Pepe
comes
the
with a lot more weight. Yeah.
Pepe
well, I mean, yeah.
Fucking shit show.
A good example is this, like the biggest ad that I ever worked on. The most notable one is the Dove Evolution ad, which was like at the time the most seen ad in history.
I watched it as a kid.
And Yeah, and so like I did that, and I got like attacked, not physically, but I got like attacked a whole lot online and on tour by vegans and PETA because like Dove experiments on animals, and it's like, how dare you work with them? Like they work on it, you know, and I never listen to your music again because you worked with this company, or you wrote music for an agency, for another agency, for another agency, for this company that, you know, some other division far away, it, you know, puts lipstick on bunnies or, you know, whatever the fuck happens.
People just need a face sometime, and then you're the face at that moment because a company doesn't has a face. But if,
well, cool enough to do the research to find Ben, though. Kudos. Those are the ones you want as fans.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's sort of that's why the licensing costs more, is because every company is going to do something evil at some point, aren't they? And you're going to be
they're already doing it
in some way.
Probably.
You know, I did a lot of research into, just for my own liking. I did a lot of research into Trump made this ridiculous video after he got COVID, coming back to the White House in the helicopter, and he comes out and he's just like, you know, he like walks back up, and the funny thing is he looks like he's having trouble breathing. I mean, that's not funny, but yeah, I mean, he's actually, you know, because he's looking just like, and this music is playing, and it's like the most proudest military music as he's like walking up, and then he stands on like the front of the White House, and he's just like, and then waves to everybody and goes inside, and it's like, Trump beat coronavirus, all right, and it's this crazy music, and I was like, all right, so what music is this? And sure enough, it's a British guy who writes music for a library site, and they bought it for, you know, $20, and his music is forever attached to this the most ridiculous video ever made. And and it's funny because I actually found his Twitter, and he was just like, just so everybody knows, like I don't decide who uses my music, I just put it on the free library. And so that's why I'm not really excited about putting my music into a library just yet, because I don't want to end up in Trump's.
But does YouTube in general count as a library? Just uploading your music to YouTube?
Oh, no. So they have their library where you could choose. You know how you could choose?
Yeah, exactly. You can choose.
Yeah, they have that.
But just like, uploading it. Because Creative Commons, is Creative Commons considered a library?
No,
it's open for anyone.
Yeah, Creative Commons. I mean, I have no issue with that whatsoever. And the thing is it's such a mess. Like the problem is I have a video where I reviewed Piano Tech, and I played a song that I wrote. That I played a piano song that I wrote, just a little piece of it, and I got a copyright strike from playing my own. It's not even the original recording. It was just the melody that I wrote 5 years prior. And somehow the algorithm caught it and gave me a copyright strike for it.
But all the distributors like DistroKid and companies like that, you can click in like YouTube, and you have to pay extra as well, I think, for some of them to cover YouTube. And then you say that, it's for other people that uses your music, so you get that music, that payment.
Nobody has any control over it, really, though. It's like it's just this like wild thing that's unmonitored. And so TuneCore, I've put my music through them, and they like police my music on YouTube or whatever they do, or like monetize it, or I'm not sure what they do. Or I'm not sure like what they even call it anymore. But the funny thing is I would play I played my own melody, and I mean, this has happened like 20 times on my channel at this point, but I would play my own melody, and I would get like the copyright notification. The video would get demonetized. It would get demonetized, but then the money would just go right back to me, but minus their deduction of however much money they collect.
It's like 20% usually, or something like that. It's like an insane percentage.
Yeah, and they would file a Digital Millennium Copyright Act. That's what they would say. It would be a DMCA, and I would then go, and so to file a DMCA without actually knowing what you're doing, you're just electronically filing it. That's not legal. You can't do that. That's not how it works, but that's how they do it. And that's how YouTube accepts it. And so then I would challenge it, and I would fill out all the paperwork, and I would challenge the DMCA and say, this is absolutely my music. I have 100% proof of it. And then they would, under penalty of perjury, like fight it. Like they wouldn't even listen to my argument. They would just fight it. And they like, so we're clear. They can go to prison for that. Like it's actually a criminal offense, perjury. Yeah. Like it's not even a civil thing anymore. And yet it happens every single day, constantly on YouTube. And it's just, that's how bad it is. Like copyright law, it's just so messed up.
Not being monitored for it, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
it's just,
they don't care because nobody's going to knock on their door and bring them to court anyways. And they know that.
Intellectual property law for information in general is just not compatible with the internet. That's all there is to it. Like there is no other way around it. We need to completely reboot the way that we think about intellectual property. And
so it's just another quick cash grab for a middleman online, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it gets abused in every possible way, and it's like, you know, you could call it abuse when like a company uses music from a library, or when a company uses television shows have used my music without permission. There's tons of abuse of it that way. There's abuse of it in the way where I was talking about with TuneCore, where they're like under penalty of perjury. They're just, you know, still filing all these things. And then you could even call like Napster abuse, right? It's like the listeners were kind of abusing because they were just not paying the artist for content that the artist had wished they were being paid for, you know, had intended to. But the reality is
more than like Metallica, though.
Oh, sure, yeah, right, and yeah, I mean, it's just
great things.
Yeah, right, yeah. No, I mean, I would not have the career I have without piracy. Like piracy is the reason why I make a living as a musician. Like that's
even
no record label was going to like, you know, dump millions of dollars into like my weird instrumental IDM music.
Yeah, and you use a lot of Fruity Loops, and Fruity Loops got big because of piracy.
Yeah,
that's a funny thing.
Yeah,
that even also helps your career, maybe.
Yeah, no, FL Studio definitely like I feel like that also kind of because like I obviously know Image Line quite well. I have a long relationship with them. And it's kind of funny because I really feel like the whole piracy thing has changed. It like changed their roadmap to work with what people want, which is really interesting, right? Because like Cubase is just like, you're getting this and you're going to learn it that way. And you know, it's like, or Nuendo, or, you know, whatever these things. And FL Studio is like, what do you guys want? What do you want in the next version? And then you'll get it. And you know, there's pros and cons to that, but yeah.
And that's a strange subject. Because I'm a music teacher. I teach electronic music, and it used to be when they asked me which program I should buy, that doesn't really matter, but it's always expensive. And 10 years ago, you could just download it. I wouldn't advise it, but everyone did it.
Sure, yeah.
So I will always advise them, just try it out, and if you earn money, pay for it. But you cannot do that almost anymore. It's pay.
Everything is going to be a subscription.
Yeah.
Soon enough, everything is a subscription.
And that's just too much money to start.
Can't subscribe to every program.
Yeah.
I pick Netflix. I subscribe to Netflix instead. Music.
I'm trying to think like what, because I have a lot of subscriptions. Like it's, every month I'm like going over everything. I'm like, all right, so what can I, what do I need? What do I not need? Yeah, right. And a lot of times I like drop something and gain another one. And especially with like entertainment, like, you know, like, okay,
soon enough you will have Discord as well. You're gonna have to get Discord Nitro.
It's the only program where you pay for and you have it for always. So that's really plus points for it.
Yeah, but that was the old solution was updates. They tried to make you want to invest more money by updating the program. And now you just subscribe so they can do whatever, basically.
Yeah. No, but like the FL Studio thing, the FL Studio, they just have free updates for life and there's no subscription. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Very nice.
But yeah, it's a little weird because like I do really like the model of I think Serum did this at one point where you could subscribe to it, but it paid into your license. So like when, you know, after 20 months of subscribing to it, you just owned it. And I like that. It's kind of like free financing or something. I think everything should be doing that. Like I think Ableton should do that. Like they may, who knows? But
because I do a lot with 3D printing, and Simon also does that. And there are a lot of open source programs that are free for amateurs and students. And then when you use it on a business for as a business, you have to pay for it. I think that should be great for music, but if they earn from it, there's another talk, because a lot of musicians aren't professional. The most people buying the programs are amateurs.
Well, what's funny is like I've paid for like Native Instruments licenses and stuff like that, and I pirate it. Like I own the license, but I pirate it just because
it's easier.
their system has like screwed me pretty badly, where I couldn't like recover sessions and stuff like that in Contact, because it's they can't contact the server and that can't get to the library and something like that. And it's just like, all right, I'm pirating everything then, and I'll just buy the subscription or not the subscription, but I'll just like buy the version of Complete, and that way, if the police ever come knocking on my door, which would never happen, but I could at least be like, yeah, well, I own it.
I thought that at this point in 2021, we have enough old programs. So we just focus on the old program instead of investing in. Stand for the industry of developing new programs, but good for poor people.
That is going to be a thing at one time. People just using programs from the 2010s or the 2000s.
Yeah, except with iPads, I guess that sort of makes everything. Ben, you know better than I do, but I know you talked about like how you can't use programs when they update the hardware and like the iOS. Yes, in that case.
Yeah, like the programs become not compatible with the new OS version, and then the new OS version doesn't become compatible with the hardware, and it's just like you're just constantly forced to upgrade everything. And
it's pay.
That's why I like sticks and stones for making music. I just bang a stick on a stone, and it sounds nice. I like it.
And then you record it to your expensive MacBook Pro.
I might update the stick at some point. Fancier stick. Oh, but it doesn't work with that rock. Oh my god, I need a rock now.
I mean it does make an argument for maybe that's why I'm writing piano music. Look,
I actually have a question now. Yeah, how many hours do you think you spend just trying to figure out technical nonsense? And is it fun? Maybe it's really fun to do as well. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like, I sometimes something happened recently where I lost a remote control to a TV, and I couldn't. I bought like a universal remote to like get it to work, and it didn't work. And then I bought like another universal remote to get it to work, and that one didn't work. And I was just like, well, all right, what's the issue? And one of the remotes I had could actually clone the signal, but you had to have the initial remote. And long story short, I like reversed. I like had to actually like solder stuff to like get that signal to like find out what signal the TV wanted to hear to like then train the other remote to do it. And I couldn't even give you a step-by-step how to do it. And I was really stressed out and annoyed. And I was like, cause I was doing this like in the middle of the night too. And at the end of it, I was like, that was awesome. Like that was great.
That's cool. Yeah, you learned, but
such a quest. So cool. Yeah. Like that was such a cool game. I think updating sound libraries and updating software is updating firmware. Like that's a part-time job. That stuff takes forever, and it can be quite frustrating. But I think just having to do it. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, what you've done here with this stream, with these streams, is pretty impressive. I was like, I would have a headache. Like, I have a headache with like a multicam stream where it's just me at the modular. Like, I'm just like, oh, yeah. So
we outsource.
Yeah. That's the thing. We started. Simon and I started a podcast about sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, market is.
To get our life, because we're both musicians, both YouTubers, coming from a different background. I'm more instrument maker. I make instruments, and because I want to
He's
sell
Dutch
more,
and Swedish.
I started YouTube, and Simon is the other way around. He wants to sell instruments. But he started as a YouTuber. But we want to make that more sustainable, and then we started the podcast, and that took too much time. So we basically did the opposite, and it's something I always do. I learn a lot from it, but so annoying. Do you have some sustainable life tips? So, do you have to hold yourself back sometimes? To some things
Ben is
really
successful.
For?
As soon as you're successful, everything is sustainable.
Yeah, I really recognize the story of the TV remote. That isn't sustainable. You could just buy a new TV if you have enough money, but you really learn from that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it a lot. I think about like how much is wasteful, and obviously, like my like little crusade against vinyl was sort of about that. Was I have all these vinyl, and not the amount of vinyl that I've collected myself as a listener, but the amount of vinyl that I've created is just insane. Like standing next to the boxes and boxes before they ship out when a new album would come out or something, and I was just like actually looking into then what. All right, so what's this stuff made of? Oh, this is actually really toxic. This is actually, and this is something that only 1/3 of vinyl listeners don't even, or 1/3 of vinyl buyers, they don't even have turntables. And so it's just kind of like, this doesn't need to exist.
What?
Yeah.
But we have 2 minutes left.
That makes no
novelty.
sense.
We have 2 minutes left. Yes, and Bless Beats is going to play after us. So
I'm going to make an assumption real fast.
Yeah.
That most people buying vinyl have walls, and they put the vinyl on the walls then instead.
Oh, you mean like
make their own art.
But then you have polyvinyl chloride with a lead stabilizer on your walls, and you're just breathing that in as it decomposes.
Better than asbestos.
Yeah, I buy vinyl for the funny pictures. So the old 80s vinyl.
Yeah.
Just worse album, but they have funny pictures.
Yeah.
Well, so we should be presenting Bless then? No?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
You said?
Just 1 minute.
Fuck that guy.
Oh!
Big up Bless Beats. Have you seen Bless Beats, Ben?
No, I'll definitely check it out on my as I
he's a Swedish. He also YouTubes. We live kind of close.
Oh, cool.
He does a lot with machine and stuff like that, like beat making. Also OP1. Yeah. You don't have an OP1, right?
I don't know.
Ah, you non-hipster son of a gun.
I know. I don't. Yeah, but I should. Before you go into that, I should have you. I should have you on my stream.
Yes.
Sooner or later. Yeah, definitely. Yes. I did that one with Cobb, and that was nice. And so,
cool. Anything else you want to plug before? Like, obviously, everyone go over to Ben's channel. Say hello.
Yeah. We should all share.
Yeah, Ben, can you do a crank?
Buy his vinyl.
Crank. Yeah, buy my vinyl. It's worth a lot now. If you go on Discogs, you'll pay a couple $100 for a record because I've stopped making it. So
I do the crank back.
Yeah.
Good marketing right there. It's all a marketing strategy, right?
Yeah.
Right. I see through your.
I think we're gonna. We're now on. Yeah, it's time.
Cool. Well, you can chill on the backstage if you want to stay longer. I don't know what you're gonna do now.
Okay.
You're all over in America.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go check on my guests and make sure that they're all good with the cables up there in the studio. And and run some errands. But I'll keep the stream on definitely because I want to hear Bless.
So
also rain check on visiting your place.
So we do some kelps in the chat for Bless. And for Benn Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Kelps. They don't even know how to spell clap anymore.
I meant kelps, like the fish. I was like, oh, that's
interesting. Yeah.
So we don't do claps, but it's kelps. And I don't know the story, but
lots of treble and bass. Yeah. Cool.
Ben who? The Flashball. Yeah.
Yeah, the Flashball.
Epic.
Benn Jordan.
Yeah, you switched YouTube name last year.
Yeah.
Almost recently.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Better. Yeah. Better that way. I was just getting a lot of people saying, like a lot of companies just sort of being like, hey, we'll give you, this amount of money to cover our iPad stand. and and just sort of felt like
I get a lot of Bluetooth speakers for some reason.